All right, everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Invisible Walls. I'm Shane Satterfield, editor-in-chief of GameTrailers.com. Just want to remind you that tomorrow night on Game Trailers TV on Spike TV, the world debut of Resistance 2 gameplay. We have both single-player and multiplayer footage, so be sure to check it out. It should be hot. Also, I want to mention one thing. I meant to bring this up last week, and I totally forgot. A couple episodes ago, I had mentioned that the new Motor Storm we had talked about that the new Motor Storm had water in it.
Thing?
Right. And I said the old one had water in it, which technically I was right because it takes water to make mud. But it is mud in the old Motor Storm. But basically what we were talking about there was the whole mechanic of cooling down your engine by driving through certain terrain, and the mud did do the same thing as the water does in Motor Storm 2. Anyway, I was wrong. I apologize. So let's just move on. So sitting in on the show this week, we have Ryan Stevens. What's up, bro?
Not much at all.
Fresh off the big Captivate 08 event. He's going to have a lot of cool stuff to talk about in the show today.
Good event.
Then we have DB, Daniel Bloodworth.
Hey.
Patrick Morales.
What's up?
And brand new to the show this week, you may recognize his voice from the GT Countdown, Rich Brown.
Number 10. I rescued Super Joe at Captivate 08.
Yeah, Rich is a big fan of Bionic Commando, and he got to go to the Captivate 08 event and check it out, and he'll be talking about that a little bit later as well. Actually, let's talk about Captivate 08 right now. It's fresh on our minds. Let's just get to it. Obviously, there's been tons of publisher events, so many that our events section, the left-hand nav of our site, is like bursting at this point. This is probably the one I was most excited to attend. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. So you guys definitely got to go to the creme de la creme. The big game was Resident Evil 5. The game was played in front of you guys, right?
Well, let's not forget Neopets.
Well,
Let's forget Neopets.
Yeah, the Puzzle Quest guys. But we saw about, what did you say, Rich? Maybe 15 minutes of
Yeah,
Resident Evil
a good
5?
15 minutes.
having seen someone else play Resident Evil 5, has your anticipation for the game gone up, gone down, or are you guys at base level?
Base level.
Yeah?
I'm up.
Yeah?
I'm up.
What brought you up?
The mini boss destroying everything, literally. I mean, taking down the villagers with his swing, taking down walls, trying to get to Chris Redfield. All the stuff that was being destroyed as he was trying to get to Chris Redfield. I thought that was great.
Cool. Now, I think the other big announcement, obviously, was that they announced something I think we already knew, was that Street Fighter 4 is coming to the consoles. Surprise, surprise. Did you guys get a chance to play some more of it, play some new characters?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the other big thing is it's now, except for the graphics, it's a completely 2D game. They took out the 3D, which when you guys played it at GDC, and when they had it up at AOU in Japan, it was all 3D character collision detection. Mm-hmm. So, if the polygons touch, that would register as a hit. Now they have, these 2D bounding boxes, just like in the old Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3 games. So for all intents and purposes, it's a 2D game.
Is that good or bad?
It played that.
It played awesome.
It played awesome before at GDC, though.
I mean, it played outstanding.
If you had any problems with it being a little floaty, it's weird because you'd think the actual pixels hitting pixels would seem more accurate, but it actually feels a lot more like you're actually connecting now.
It sounded to me like it's really just Street Fighter 2.
It is just Street Fighter 2.
Mm-hmm. With some new characters.
But that's the thing is we were there and everyone was playing it nonstop, and anytime anyone jumped onto a new character, unless they were Capcom staff, they get their ass handed to them.
Yeah.
Because you can just fall into your old characters.
Right.
So
what else did they show? They showed that new Wii game Spybots or whatever the hell it is.
Spyborgs.
Yeah.
Does
Did
anybody
they show
care
any
about
of it or just the trailer?
No, we saw a demo.
Okay.
I mean, it looks kind of like one of those Marvel kind of games where you run around and you hit some people and you throw some levers, but they were showing very, very little of it off.
Now, it's made by ex-Insomniac guys, right?
Yeah, and they're trying to go for this real humor-bent thing where they're like, Adult Swim, but we're going for an E10 rating, maybe.
It looks like they need some better programmers, though. I mean, visually, the game is pretty underwhelming. I mean, think about what the Insomniac team accomplished on the PlayStation 2, and then look at that game, and
Yeah.
But it's 09, so it's still got...
Right. It's still really early, lots of time.
It definitely has potential. I don't want to, poo-poo it, Joel, but right now I'm very cautious, especially with the real hit-and-miss humor.
Yeah.
Dark Void.
Dark Void, very interesting.
They're trying to, strike some novelty with what they want to call vertical cover, where you have a jetpack or a hover pack, and you're taking cover while you're climbing giant vertical surfaces. which is a cool idea in theory, and they wouldn't let anyone play it. But when you actually watch it, after the camera switches, it's just like taking cover on a horizontal plane for the most part.
And then, I mean, you also can get down on a horizontal plane, and you're another over-the-shoulder third-person shooter.
Oh, but on a small aside, the game developer, the lead game designer, actually directed one of my favorite music videos for a band I like called Shoo
yeah,
Shoo,
that's right.
which was all like done with 8-bit sprites and stuff like that. So it's a small world in that regard.
That's surprising.
Yeah. So if you get to mention My Bloody Valentine, I get to mention Shoo Shoo.
That's fair enough. And then Bionic Commando, obviously, Rich, you're a big proponent of that franchise. What did you think of the stuff they showed of both versions?
Bionic Commando Next Gen, a lot of people were saying it felt like Spider-Man, but I disagree because Spider-Man is just so, it's kind of like automatic with the swinging, I want to say. It's just, as you're swinging, it's just like, okay, you can just keep pressing the button and go, whereas Bionic Commando, you have to actually time everything. So I don't think it felt like Spider-Man at all.
Think of Spider-Man as having, training wheels on training wheels, and Bionic Commando is just having training wheels.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my big question is it really a Bionic Commando game? Does it feel like you're playing Bionic Commando when you play that game?
You know what? I want to say no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say no because I like between that and Rearmed. I played Rearmed and I fell in love. Rearmed was awesome.
Yeah, it looks really
But,
great.
I mean, the next gen Bionic Commando. I mean, it's cool. It looks good, but it's still to me, it's still novelty.
Well, it sounds like overall it's a pretty good event.
Yeah, and we have a strong lineup, and hopefully, like I said, I'm kind of still hyped for Resident Evil 5. Hoping E3 will, put me over the edge. I admit to the co-op. Tell me what this partner lady's going to do. That's what I'm waiting for.
Any word about the release date?
Fiscal year 2008. So for those who don't know banking, up to March.
Up to March. So it's probably going to be just like Resident Evil 4, basically.
Yeah, probably January, February release.
Same deal. Cool.
So I think our top 10 next year should be top 10 anticipated games for the fiscal year.
Yeah.
All right, next we have the news. The big story this week was Itagaki-san leaving Team Ninja and Tecmo and suing them as his butt went out the door. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. And
not surprising though. I mean,
really?
he's a total loose cannon. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you spent a lot of time with him. You did that documentary.
yeah.
So
That's why, I'm not that surprised.
So is he suing Tecmo proper, or is he?
He is, yeah. I mean, Tecmo owns Team Ninja. He's not
Right.
going to sue just the development team inside Tecmo.
What? Did
Lately, for whatever reason, Itagaki-san has been bashing Ninja Gaiden Sigma and laying into Hayasan, which is crazy because I literally did hours of interviews with Itagaki-san for that documentary, and he just gushed over Hayasan every time. So how amazing he was, how quickly he rose through the ranks, and what a hard worker he was, how he believed in what he was doing on Sigma.
Yeah, but put a couple million yen on the line.
He threw him under the bus. I can't believe it. In addition to being really talented, Hayasan is also a really great guy. I mean, he's eventually really become a friend of mine. And I just was shocked to see Itagaki-san laying into him like that over the last few weeks. But now, it all kind of makes sense. Also, I'm not making another Ninja Gaiden. I'm not making another DOA. That all kind of makes sense now, too, because,
he can't.
well, he filed the lawsuit, over a month and a half ago. So, yeah, he can't. So Tecmo's screwed. Okay, next we're going to talk about a couple games that were canceled for the PlayStation 3. First of all, we get so much grief. People say we hate the PlayStation 3. We do not hate the PlayStation 3. In fact, as a piece of hardware, I love the PlayStation 3. It's a beast. Solid state. Never had any problems with the hardware. They just keep adding stuff on with the firmware that's really cool and I love. I'm getting ready to go to Europe and I'm trying to figure out if I can get the remote play to work and see how that goes. It would be awesome to be able to stream media off of my PS3 while I'm in Europe. 2 big games canceled. 8 days. Well, are they big games?
They were.
Well, 8 days. It was they showed one trailer. They showed the one trailer that got people all hype. It was the one where it was shot in the diner, and then the whole 18-wheeler slides over, and it got people really excited. That was back when we thought that might be gameplay.
Yeah.
I think now we realize it's not, but people were pretty hyped for that game. Probably the bigger one, though, was the Getaway, because it's a known commodity. It certainly had some kind of equity with players.
It was decent, the earlier ones.
So what do you guys think? I mean, that's 2 big exclusives that
Well,
are lost.
I'm actually just surprised they told us, because these days things don't get canceled; they just don't
They
get
just
talked
kind of
about
get
anymore.
brushed under the rug, and that's it. They disappear.
Yeah, I mean, with something like The Getaway, I don't think you could just brush that under the rug. Because they not only did they show a trailer for that, they showed like some in-engine stuff that they have been working on for the game. And how much do you think it has to do with Phil Harrison leaving? You know,
Well,
Yeah.
he could have been
Eurodevelop.
he could have been the defender of those games all this time, and the guy who was like standing in between Sony and the developers. And
Right.
now that he's gone, that could have had a huge impact on whether those games, continued development or were canned. So.
Yeah, and the Getaway is definitely something that would take a lot of resources to keep up.
Yeah, open-ended game like that. I mean, plus maybe another part of it is that Grand Theft Auto 4 just
Yeah.
came out and they were like,
Like, Jesus, holy cow.
We're Saints Row.
we're screwed. Well, Saints
Yeah.
Row immediately
Got
was
delayed,
put.
yeah.
Yeah, well, the latest Saints Row trailer is like making
Making
fun of GTA.
4.
Oh,
That's probably
depressing.
not a good idea.
Yeah, it's like, would you rather go bowling or would you rather like spray sewage on people? I'm like, okay.
I think I'd rather bowl.
That's really
Call
not
me
a good
crazy.
idea. It's really not a good idea, especially seeing as how buggy Saints Row was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But
I mean-
it's definitely a blow to Sony. I mean, those are two huge exclusives. As Kaz said last week, it's really hard for them to get exclusives now because it costs so much to make games that every publisher wants to release stuff across, every platform. And this isn't going to help. I mean,
Yeah, but I think in the press release they said now they can focus more resources on Little Big Planet. So, as far as I'm
how many
concerned,
resources do you need?
little-
I just want
Weird.
the game out.
But they're completely different teams.
I don't care. That's what the press release lied to me about. So that's
Is
what
that really what the press release said?
There's some sort of commentary where people like perhaps resources can be.
But it's not Media Molecule.
No, it
right?
isn't. That's why it didn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
it makes no sense
But
whatsoever.
I mean, yeah,
But I think it's probably
other
more like the
unannounced
Sony like
projects.
overlords, looking at the stuff.
Well,
You know?
with Little Big Planet, I don't see. I mean, it's like they should be far enough along now to where they should be able to release something and then just have downloadable content coming.
Yeah,
Well, they got a
think-
planet.
they have
Well,
a
I mean,
planet, or they need to plan it.
What?
I'm not sure what you just said.
They need to strike at a good time. I'm sure they could release Little Big Planet right now. The game's.
Don't you think right now is a good time?
Yeah.
Yeah, the summer's always
Yeah.
a good time to release games.
I mean, there's
But
not a
we got
lot
Metal
of
Gear, so.
I mean, Metal Gear. After that, people will get through that in a couple weeks, and then what? I think Little Big Planet would be a nice little follow up. But now it's like they have no first party games really. They have Resistance, which everyone will be able to see tomorrow night on Game Trailers TV. Plug. But what else? I mean, as far as first party games, they have LBP, and then it's looking a little thin. Killzone
Killzone.
comes.
Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I mean, Killzone comes out next year. So they
SOCOM's
don't-
coming out in the fall.
Right, which is basically a downloadable game. It's not really a standalone type game. Focus on multiplayer.
Life Out HD is supposed to come out in the summer. That's again, it's downloadable.
Yeah, PSN game. So I mean, it's got to hurt for them to lose those two games, especially considering how long they've been in development. I mean, they had already been in development for a while when we saw them when the PlayStation 3 was unveiled. So that's a lot of man hours, money, time just wasted. So it's not good. The 360's lineup is really starting to come together for this year. At the beginning of the year, I really didn't know if they were going to have a lot of hot stuff, but it's starting to look like they will. PlayStation 3 definitely needs some exclusives to buoy itself.
Well, maybe we'll be surprised at E3.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
hope so.
Right
I
around the
hope
corner. They have to, right? I mean, they have to show us new games at E3.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how
I mean,
much
we haven't
will
seen
they have enough
anything-
space to show new games?
Yeah,
We haven't seen any. What's the game Sucker Punch is working on? Is it Infamous?
I don't know.
We haven't seen anything from that for a while. They've been working on that forever.
Yeah. So anyway, looks like a couple games canceled. I don't think anyone's too hyped for them. I don't think it's going to change anyone's perception of whether they're going to buy the system or not. But it's definitely not good. All right, next up is On the Hook, where we answer your questions. And I have to say, last week we gave you guys some grief about bad questions, and this week we got some absolutely kick-ass questions.
Not volcano worthy, but
Well, I don't know. They're pretty close, man.
getting close.
Yeah.
Maybe you can just trickle out like magma.
Magma. So we actually have 4 really awesome questions we wanted to answer. We're running out of time, so we're only going to be able to get to 2 this week, but we'll get to the other 2 next week. And also, just as a reminder, if you get your questions right on this show, you get 500 GTD. That's right, Ryan.
Which is-
500.
Yep, it's
That's-
not too shabby.
That's big time, man. I think I've said
That's
this
watching
before.
500 videos.
Yeah, I'm a little over 3,000 GTD and I've been working here for years. So I think 500 is a pretty healthy little incentive to get your questions in. Anyway, excellent job. Glad you guys picked it up and got us some good questions this week. Patrick, what's the first one that you have for us?
All right, well, this one's from Jason Smith, and he is wondering, do you think Microsoft needs to acquire more gaming studios like Sony? Because Sony has so many good first-party developers, Santa Monica under SCEE, Naughty Dog, Insomniac, Guerrilla Games, and Japan Studios, etc. Even with the number of studios that Microsoft has under its belt, it's still doing pretty well with Halo and Gears and all that. Whether or not it can continue to sustain itself on just those two franchises, who knows? But it would definitely be in their best interest to get more studios.
Yeah, well, what's weird about Microsoft is they don't really seem to have a lot of their own studios. I mean, it's like partnerships with one company or another. I mean, they have Silicon Knights doing Two Human, and they were with BioWare on Mass Effect the first time out, and
Yeah, but now those developers are getting snatched up.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's like, well, what's actually made by Microsoft? You have Bungie and Rare and everybody else and Lionhead, but
What was the first thing that happened after BioWare was snatched up?
The
They
PC
announced
port?
it for the PC.
Yeah,
They're like, later. I mean, that's still kind of in Microsoft's coffer still. They make all the money off of Windows or whatever. But it's funny how immediately afterwards, like all of a sudden, they're going to create it for the PC. I mean, I don't know. I think Microsoft's done a really good job of getting, like you said, like developers that aren't under their umbrella to make exclusive games for them. So, Microsoft may be flagging the number of consoles that are sold, but the amount of software that's sold for that platform every month is incredible. And that's really where the publishers make their money, is in the software sold. So I think they've done a really good job of sort of nurturing the relationships with just independent developers and independent publishers to convince them to put exclusive content on their platform. That said, that is starting to slow down now. You don't really see a lot of new announcements from developers and publishers like that saying that this is going to be exclusive for the 360 or the PS3. At this point, everybody just wants to release everything on all of them so they make as much money as possible. So, yeah, I mean, getting more studios is definitely going to supply you with more exclusive content, but just getting studios isn't going to do you any good. You have to get good studios. I mean, it's seriously.
Really?
You have to get good studios, and that good studios, the good studios have to produce good games.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's not going to do you any good to just snatch people up.
And make
If they're gonna,
Shadowrun.
Yeah.
they're going to make crap, right, like Shadowrun. Yeah.
But then, it is interesting with Microsoft Game Studios, like working with Tecmo as developer, Microsoft Game Studios as the publisher for like Ninja Gaiden 2. So,
and they have the Mistwalker deal too. So.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a really good job of getting those relationships in place. But now Bungie's...
free agent,
Yeah.
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if they put out anything for another platform, but they have the opportunity to if they want now.
Games will probably come out on the PC a little sooner.
Yeah, I would definitely see that happening.
But it would be cool if we saw like a YouTube video of like Shane Kim all sweaty going, developers, 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 developers. That'd be cool.
Are Sony's internal studios really any stronger than what Microsoft is working with? I mean, Insomniac's really-
Insomniac always makes quality.
Yeah.
And
Naughty
they've been
Dog.
consistent too. I mean, they have a game every year, it seems. So.
Yeah, Naughty Dog makes consistently good games.
Yeah, Sony Santa Monica has been pretty good as well.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see the next God of War at E3 this year,
Oh,
which
man,
would be
I
really
hope so.
sweet. I mean, they need something like that, though, right? We were talking earlier about, how they really need a boost after they canceled those couple games. I mean, that could be the game that really gives
Yeah.
them a boost. They need it.
Yeah.
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 Because, I mean, they say Metal Gear is never going to the 360, but who knows,
Well, I think I saw someone was talking yesterday about they saw something online where they showed how many discs it would
Yeah.
take. It was like
like
12
this
discs or something to like put Metal Gear on the 360.
Sweet.
In that case, maybe I would mind having to swap discs.
Like in the middle of a cutscene.
Right.
Snake, I am your... Please insert disc 7.
Worst nightmare.
It's like a UMD.
So, yeah, it's, the more first-party studios you can get, the better. They're only going to create content for you, but they have to be good games. I mean, look at Rare. Perfect Dark Zero didn't exactly move the needle for them at launch. In fact, none of Rare's games have moved the needle so far. Viva Pinata basically tanked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's good to have access to like Microsoft's money or Sony's money, but I do like when studios kind of retain their independence.
I think Banjo's probably going to tank. So, you look at the $400 million they spent on Rare.
Yeah.
That's looking like a really bad investment at this point. So I guess that's a perfect case of you can buy somebody, but
Well, maybe they'll put Grabbed by the Ghoulies on Xbox Originals.
They should have had Rare knock out another first-person shooter. Trying to make it of the same caliber, if not higher, than GoldenEye.
How about Perfect Dark -1? Probably maybe around the review scores it would get.
Yeah.
Well, I think another thing we have to realize is that there are still a ton of PlayStation franchises that have yet to even be announced for the PlayStation 3. I mean, where's the next Shadow of the Colossus?
Yeah.
Well, those guys are supposedly working on PSN stuff, downloadable content.
That would be a huge
No, there was that
waste.
teaser thing, wasn't that showed the
Right.
well, the that
Yeah,
Japanese
but
teaser site?
there's been a lot of news saying that it's going to be a downloadable title.
I mean, there still hasn't been a proper Gran Turismo release for it. There still isn't a proper SOCOM announced for it, which, believe it or not, was a huge franchise for them last
yeah.
generation. I mean, they still have a lot of IPs waiting in the wings that they can come out with. So, sure, wouldn't hurt for Microsoft to get more first-party developers. I think they've been doing okay with their plan now. But I think I would have to say, yes, Sony right now definitely has the superior list of internal development studios. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And there's still a lot of hot stuff waiting to come out from those guys.
Or get canceled.
Right. All right, Bloodworth, you have the next question.
Yeah, this is from Bo Dirks, and he says, I'm disappointed that Ninja Gaiden 2 is still being too difficult. Why are they limiting their audience to only the hardcore? Do you think Ninja Gaiden 2 will have a high turnover in households with more copies showing up on pre-owned shelves in stores? Well, I think it can happen. I think a lot of it just has to do with kind of Itagaki and the Team Ninja ideal of if you're not good enough for our game, then tough luck.
That may be the irony, actually, of Itagaki-san leaving Tecmo and Team Ninja is that the games may sell better now, that he's not forcing them to make them so friggin' hard. I mean, obviously the guys he worked with looks up to him, and they may try to carry that aesthetic forward with the series, but I mean, that may be the best thing that ever happened in Ninja Gaiden, is that it's not impossible anymore. Yeah. But I think you are going to see people returning that game. I honestly don't know why they do it. I mean, they have that sect of people that really enjoy the games, and I really enjoy their games personally, but we are the hardcore kids that those games are made for. I mean, most of the people that buy games are not going to want to be tortured by a video game for 25 hours before they beat it.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, the basic combat is really, really good and really satisfying. I think it's when you get to the boss battles that it becomes just like...
Well, there are parts in the game, too, where you get tossed, 20 or 30 enemies at you. And if you aren't smart enough to know to use the flying swallow over and over and over,
the flying swallow.
You'll get worked. It's just all there is to it. Especially someone who's not really good at game. I could imagine, my wife trying to play Ninja Gaiden 2. It would almost be comical. I should tape her playing Ninja Gaiden 2. I bet you she would last 3 seconds, I'm guessing, before she'd be dead. Every time. All right, next we have our old pal Grumpy McGrump stopping by to basically bitch about something, right?
For shizzle, my nizzle, what it is, word to your mother. You missed me?
I did, actually. I do enjoy our conversations.
Good.
Especially after Grand Theft Anus. I think that was your crowning achievement.
And speaking of Grand Theft Anus, it seems like the Florida Bar Association's recommended that our boy Jack, I am a moron Thompson, be disbarred for 10 years.
That had to hurt.
Oh, he walked out of his hearing halfway through, by the way. We won't know until September because the Supreme Court has to pass judgment, but I think it's pretty safe to say that Jackie Boy will end up, being an intern somewhere or something, or panhandling, or he'll just go and practice somewhere else where they have no legal morals or anything. He'll probably go into politics, actually.
Yeah, that does have to sting, though. I have friends who took the bar who studied their asses off for months and still failed it, so... Think about him going to law school, studying for the bar, practicing for some years, and then all right down the shitter.
Well, I nobody can see me now, but I am doing a little jig of joy.
Yeah, I don't think anyone here is going to shed a tear over Jack Thompson being gone, that's for sure.
Yes, indeed. But anyway, enough of him. He's had enough of my thoughts and times. We'll come back to him in September if Shane's still around or whatever. So we fit. We fat. We all fat according to We Fit. Yeah, it's bizarre how this has taken off. I mean, everybody was hyped about it in the first place, but now there's all these calls about, We Fit called my 10-year-old a fat bastard and all this sort of stuff.
Because your 10-year-old is a fat bastard.
Well, this is it. It's like, get Tubby off the donuts and take him for a walk. But yeah, there was this big report in the UK in the Daily Mail, which is a right-wing fascist rag of a newspaper, that somebody's kid entered their height and their BMI, their age, and the BMI index came back as them being obese. Well, first thing I want to say to everybody is Wii Fit is a fucking game. Wii Fit is not a fitness tool. I mean, I've seen all these posts on various consumer sites, sites that the girls post on, the community sites, Yelp.com, where people have said Wii Fit has replaced my trainer. Well, you're in for a rude awakening because it says on the box, this is not a fitness product. This is entertainment. And all these people are now buying this little plastic thing, keeping Nintendo in more money with another frigging gimmick, and they're going to get surprised in a couple of months when they try to run for a bus and die of a fucking heart attack.
Couldn't they just buy a pair of cleats or something and actually get in shape?
Not with Wii Fit they can't. I mean, I have a problem with Wii Fit anyway. I mean, I have a Wii. I like playing tennis every now and again, but I don't like to do physical exercise with my video games. Thank you. I picked a hobby, vocation, if you will, that involves me sitting on my ass, eating potato chips and drinking beer, and I don't want to fucking do that with Wii Fit. But
the other problem is there's no game there really.
There isn't. There's these little simulators. I mean, Nintendo could have had so much more fun. And actually, I would have liked to see somebody come up with a competing version or something you can download and plug in that actually insults people. When your tummy little child gets on, the first thing that we should say is, "Excuse me, one person at a time, please." I'm a big fan of tough love. I think that if you're going to inspire people to get fit or whatever, you've got to do it in a way that's really going to offend them. I don't want any of this cutesy-wootsy me stuff saying, you're a little bit tubby. Do this a little bit more. Stretch one time, blah, blah, blah. I was like, fatty, lay off the friggin' donuts. You know what? Get out there, walk. If anybody's stupid enough to buy this thing, they should have the shit insulted out of them, not only by the Wii, but by everybody who buys it. In fact, I think anybody who walks into Best Buy or Target or wherever and buys this should have to wear a t-shirt saying, I'm a gullible fat fool.
Well, here's my thing with Wii Fit and other things that I hate that a lot of people like. When I used to work at GameSpot, I worked with Greg Kasavin, and one day he said to me, we were talking about how GameSpot's review scores, at least at that time, were always a good bit lower than the user average.
This was before Kane and Lynch happened, obviously.
We won't even go there. But anyway, what he was saying is technically it's our jobs to figure out if people want to spend their money on a game or not. So to him, if we were coming in under or even over the user average, we were wrong and they were right. Because to him, it was our job to tell them the best way to spend their money. So when you look at something like Wii Fit, and I'm right there with you, I have no understanding of why anybody would buy this and not just go out and exercise. But for whatever reason, it is resonating with lots of people. So
dude, it's a fucking gimmick.
Are they wrong, or are we? But people said the Wii was a gimmick.
You know what?
And here it is sitting in first place.
The Wii is a gimmick, and you know what? The Wii, they've done the marketing very well. I've officially downgraded Wii from video game console to fucking toy.
I think that's how Nintendo looks like.
It's an out and out toy. Shouldn't be considered as a video game console unless every time a Zelda or a Metroid comes out or something that's really a true video game. Because same thing as a DS. You look at those two things now, and what's the difference between the old Tomy Game and Watches from 30 years ago, or the Pokemon, or you look at Tamagotchi, those little virtual pets that you'd have. They're all fucking gimmicks coming out of Japan. And this actually leads me on to something else.
Well, what is a gimmick, though? I mean,
a gimmick is something that you're going to shell out a shitload of money for, use 3 or 4 times, get absolutely bored with, and then it's going to start, building up dust somewhere until you sell it in a yard sale for $35, and you get pissed off because you dropped $200 on it.
But you wouldn't say that Pokemon is a gimmick, right?
Pokemon's stupid.
It's an RPG.
Wow.
It's not an RPG.
Yes, it is.
Look. You should be absolutely more cynical than me on this stuff. You've been around long enough to recognize an exercise in marketing when you see one. Yeah, Pokemon got to get them all.
Pokemon is an RPG, though.
Yeah, but Pokemon it's a frigging crappy ass cartoon, crappy ass movies, crappy ass trading cards.
It is a real video game, though.
All right. So who do you know that 1 has a social life, 2 has a sex life, and 3 is over the age of 21 who plays Pokemon?
Me.
All right, listeners, we know that's not true because he got married 6 months ago, and I know once you pass the first 6 months, you don't get any sex. And not after his week of playing GTA 4. But Going back to Nintendo, I would like Nintendo to get some edge. I would like to see them do some, R-rated stuff that people can have some fun with for the grown-ups.
Should they hire Itagaki?
No, they should hire me. I've already got a couple of simulators sorted out. One is Wii Stripper. Great for parties.
Isn't somebody making that already? The stripping pole thing?
Yeah, but I mean, I think Nintendo's going to approve that software.
Do you think that peripheral's a gimmick?
I think that, you know what? Dude, it's a gimmick that will save many a marriage, I can tell you. I think that, you can mess with existing franchises. I'm thinking, Rock Band, go to EA, tie in with Playboy, you can have Rock Band Groupie, and, you plug your Wiimote inside one of those inflatable dolls, and they vibrate and bounce around, and there you go, that's a whole different adult-only game. What else is there? I think, I am also looking forward to Wii Pimp.
Wii Pimp.
Well, you could have the controller that you put inside this big, pimped out goblet, and you could dress up, and you have to manage your hose, and you can have mini games like, instead of whack-a-mole, whack-a-hoe.
The bitch slap.
Bitch slap. There you go.
And does it come with the hat with a feather in it?
A hat with a feather. That's another gimmick there. An extra $20 on top, limited edition, pre-order. I know he'd buy his straight away.
I just want to know how many sizes the stripper pole will come into.
Well, it depends on the success
For those
of Wii Fit,
plus
really.
size women.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Nobody in their right mind is going to want a plus-size woman slide. There are fireman's poles that couldn't take that weight.
Well, Grumpy, as always, a great conversation. A lot of thought-provoking statements made by you today, and we'll check you again in 2 weeks.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
You sound so convincing.
I am.
You need to trademark that.
Oh, and by the way, when I come back in 2 weeks, I want a theme tune.
A theme song?
Yeah.
Can we write it ourselves?
I think so too. I think something upbeat and insulting.
Maybe we should have a contest.
Yeah, there you go. And don't forget, check out Grumpy_McGrump. I need more friends. Thank you.
In fact, let's do that. Let's just toss it out there right now. 1,000 GTD to anybody who can write a theme song for Grumpy that we deem good enough to use on the show.
And an extra 50 GTD if you include my voice swearing.
All right, it's a deal. Get
Done.
cracking. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Invisible Walls. I'll actually be out the next couple weeks on vacation. I'll see you next time. Invisible Walls is out.